Welcome to our Careers in Advanced Study in Psychology and Related Fields webinar, basically framed for our students in continuing education who are trying to earn their degrees online. I have several guests that I'd like to introduce. After I introduce myself, I'm Dr. Mary Duell. I'm the Assistant Coordinator for the Online and Continuing Education Program in Psychology, also a lecturer in the Department of Psychology. And to my left, I have Dr. Rebecca Markovitz, if you could introduce yourself.
I'm also a lecturer in the Department of Psychology, and I do work in our master's program in autism studies and our online graduate certificate, Behavioral Interventions in Autism.
And Dr. Alice Fry.
Hi, I'm also a lecturer, and I focus mostly on stats and research methods, and I'm also a licensed clinical psychologist.
And to my right, Emily Brown.
I'm Emily Brown. I'm a career counselor in the Career and Co-op Center.
Okay, and
I'm Diane Donaldson, and I work here in Continuing Ed. I assist students with the BA Psychology Online and also the Behavioral Intervention in Autism Certificate.
okay, hopefully everybody can hear all right. So we'll start. We might have people joining us along the way. The slides that we're going to be showing, as well as a recording of this webinar, will be available for students after the webinar. We will be posting this on the Facebook page for the Department of Psychology. If you haven't liked our page, you should do so. I'll also post a link to this on the Department of Psychology's website. There may be a couple of additional places where we'll make this information available. So we're focused tonight on careers in advanced study. Obviously, a lot of students in baccalaureate programs in psychology are looking for information about what they're going to do afterward. So this is basically a program to help you make some decisions about what you're going to be doing, or at least begin thinking about some of those things. What can I do with a BA in psychology? That's sort of the question that probably a lot of you have been asking. Maybe people have asked you that question. One of the things that I can tell you is that the education that you folks are receiving at the bachelor's level in psychology here at UMass Lowell is a good education. The courses that we offer basically have been developed to foster critical thinking skills, writing and analytic skills, communication skills. Certainly, as we look at our program, one of the things that we have done most recently is to consider what are called essential learning outcomes for students at the university. And the courses that we offer in psychology are designed to meet those learning outcomes, and I've mentioned some of them already. Some of the others include quantitative literacy, which you get in Research 2.
Whether you like it or not.
Written and oral communication, which you get in a number of courses, obviously, and applied and integrative learning, which you get in Research 3, which many of you have taken with me or will be taking with me, taking Research 2 with Dr. Fry. So we provide a solid foundation for advanced study or career after your bachelor's degree here at UMass Lowell. If you are a Bachelor of Liberal Arts student and are concentrating in psychology, it's a good pathway as well to provide opportunities for advanced study. You don't have to have a degree in psychology to go to graduate school. We'll be talking more about that, as well as to set yourself up for a career that is psychological in nature. Now I'm going to introduce a student, Alexandra Deckoff-Jones. She's one of our online students who's enrolled in the bachelor's program in psychology. She lives in New Mexico, and she's going to be joining us this evening and will be sharing some thoughts with us. Alexandra, will you share some thoughts about our program? We'll be switching over to your camera here in just a minute.
Hi there. Hopefully you can see me and hear me all right. I
wanted to talk a little bit just about my experience, particularly with the directed study program that you can be involved in through UMass. I took Research 3 with Professor Duell last spring, and that class really taught me how much of an interest I had in the process of psychology research. So I went to chat pretty frequently in that class, and I spoke to Professor Duell a lot. We developed a little bit of a relationship, and through that conversation, she let me know about the directed study program, which basically allows students to pursue a research project in a topic of their interest. So then last fall, we began working together. We discussed a lot of different topic options, but thankfully we both agreed on the same topic, which was the one I was most interested in, which was about different disability types and how they're perceived. And through literature reviews, I was able to narrow the topic down even more to the interaction between disability types and accommodation types, and whether non-disabled people think different accommodations are appropriate for different disability types, specifically for students on university campus. So we began working on developing the study, and we were able to run it this spring. We just finished collecting, actually the data is being collected right now, just finished preliminary results and found a significant main effects for both independent variables of disability type and accommodation type, as well as a very significant interaction between the two, I should say a robust interaction. So it was really exciting to get to focus on something that I was personally interested in, to get to bring the whole study to fruition, to do the data and analysis and see the results. I'm going to actually be able to present the research at the Student Research Symposium from a distance. I believe I'm going to be the first online student to do that. I'm going to film a video and present it there with the poster, which is really exciting. And hopefully we'll be able to actually publish a paper on the results and potentially show it at the APS conference next year. So my main advice would be just how incredibly important it is to build relationships with your professors, especially as an online student, because you don't always have access to a lot of the things like career fairs and resume building necessarily, but your professors are there to help you. So if you talk to them, if you build that relationship, they'll probably open up doors of opportunities that you didn't know were available to you, which is exactly what happened in my case. And also building those relationships is so important when it comes time to apply to grad school, because you'll have strong relationships for recommendation letters, which is just really important. So yeah, take the time to build those relationships. If you can't go to chat, at least, be vocal on the discussion board or email back and forth, because it's really a very helpful opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Allie. That was very well spoken. She's definitely a star in our program, so really appreciate her taking time from her busy schedule from New Mexico to talk with us tonight. So with that said, let's talk just a little bit about some career options that are available to students who have completed a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology. I could probably spend an hour going through this list, but on the slide you're able to see that there are a number of different options that are available to students coming out of a baccalaureate program, from business to community service to human resources, research, public policy, voc rehab, and the list goes on and on. One of the slides that is included in the presentation has a link to the APA website. And the APA website is a wonderful resource, not only for career information, but as well as graduate school information. So you'll hear a little bit more about that later on this evening. Obviously, career services is an important benefit to students at the university, and it's a benefit that not only students who are in face-to-face classes and here at the university can take advantage of, but also online students. The office is located at University Crossing. If you're local and can get there, certainly you're welcome to go and physically be present there. There's basically a link to their website, but even better, we have a representative from Career Services tonight, Emily Brown, who has agreed to tell you a little bit about the services that they offer that would be available to online students at our university. So Emily, can you please share some of those thoughts?
Sure. So, as was already mentioned, if you are local, you're welcome to come to our office. You can make appointments online at career.uml.edu. If you're not local, you can still make appointments online and do it by phone. So if you need a resume review, for example, you can email your resume to us and we can give you some feedback by phone or go back and forth by email. So we can still help you with that, as well as cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, really anything related to the job search. And if you're not sure what you want to do, so as we were already looking, there are many different directions you can go with a psychology major. I was a psychology major in undergrad. And we can help you sort of figure that out as well. We have career assessments available, including the Myers-Briggs Personality Type Indicator and the Jackson Career Explorer. So those are available to online students as well. Our website does have a lot of resources on it. Again, at career.uml.edu, it has sample resumes and cover letters, advice for career fairs, and advice for networking. Another thing that might be helpful for online students in particular is our LinkedIn group. So we do have a group, it's called UMass Lowell Alumni Student Career Connections. And joining the group will give you access to a lot of students, both online and traditional students, and as well as alumni. So that's really great for networking no matter where you're located. And you can find alumni in your area by looking in that group as well.
Okay. So if students have questions about career services, they would be able to either contact you by email or by phone.
Absolutely, yes. So you can reach us at 978-934-2355. And for general questions, you can email career_services@uml.edu.
And on the UML website, obviously Career Services has a lot of information and links. So please take advantage of this. This is something that you don't have to pay for. It's free. So don't be afraid that if you take advantage of their services that you're going to have to pay an exorbitant sum to do it. So they have done some very, very good things with students. So please take advantage.
In fact, your fees kind of actually pay for it already. So really, you've kind of paid for it. You bought it. You should make use of it.
Absolutely. So couldn't encourage you enough to do that. So thank you, Emily. All right. Well, let's move on and talk a little bit about graduate school, advanced study. As we think about advanced study, we generally think about psychology. Obviously, there are other types of programs that students may find themselves in, but some areas for advanced study in psychology, again, include some of the areas that I've listed on this slide. Clinical psychology, cognitive psychology, experimental psychology, which is what I am, an experimental psychologist. IO, industrial organizational, social personality, biopsych, school forensic psychology. Get your general psych or your introduction to psychological science textbook out and take a look at some of the chapters, and that will give you some ideas about the kinds of areas of specialization that exist within this field. So there's really something for everyone, but there are a lot of different options in terms of grad school and advanced study for students who get an undergraduate degree in the field. I know I've talked to a lot of students, and in fact, as recently as this week, who've said, okay, that's great. I want to go to graduate school, but I don't know what I want to do. I have no idea what kind of program that I really want. Don't feel bad. I think that's a very common sort of feeling. Even if you're getting to the point that you need to be thinking about applying to grad school, there's no substitute for information. So I think you will find the answers that you're seeking if you do some research on career options. And there are lots of different resources for that. Obviously, faculty that you encounter in your courses online, professional organizations like the APA have a lot of information about grad study. Counselors, people that you know, people who are working in the field. So there are a lot of different places to find out information. As you really get into the sort of the moment and are thinking about going to graduate school, perhaps you've done some interviewing of people, talking to professors, talking to people who are working, you might try just a Google search. You know, what did we do without Google? I don't know. It's amazing what one can learn in a fairly short period of time. Basically, just putting in, you know, the graduate program plus an area of psychology, like social, developmental, experimental, clinical, mental health, or the type of degree that you're interested in seeking, master's degree, PhD, and obviously these are there are a number of different degrees that one can get, and we'll try to touch on some of these as well. But a Google search is probably a good first place to start. And I mentioned already the American Psychological Association, apa.org, and I have a link to that site on this slide that goes directly to the page that's associated with graduate study. But the entire website is absolutely wonderful. So please make sure that you take time to peruse that site. Choosing a school. Okay, well, I've got some idea about what I want to do, what kind of a program I want, what kind of area that I'm interested in, what kind of career that I might want to make out of that graduate school experience after the fact. There's some obvious things that need to be considered, such as where. Since you're online students, most of you probably don't live in the Lowell area, but I think one thing that often students think about is staying close to home. It may not be the best choice for you. There may be online programs as well that would be suitable as well, but as you consider a school, you need to think about where. Where do you want to do the work? Also, admissions requirements. Often schools will require the graduate record exam or other kinds of admission requirements. Certainly, grades from your undergraduate program are important. Experience in the form of internships or volunteer experience, certainly important. And we'll probably touch on this a bit more as well as we go along tonight. The time frame of the program, is it a day program? Is it an evening program, an online program? Can you go part-time? Do you have to go full-time? So these are all things that have to be considered as part of the graduate school search. So these questions are early questions that you need to think about, but they're very, very important questions that you, I think, should consider before leaping into things full force and then realizing halfway through your search and process, I didn't really want to apply to that school. That's not really what I want to do. I've wasted all this time doing that. So think about it ahead of time.
Oftentimes, also, some coursework is specific to certain programs. So when you're choosing your courses, if you have a target grad program that you're looking at, you should consider that as well so that we can work those courses into your electives.
Absolutely. certainly the undergraduate curriculum that we have is varied, and it has courses that cover a wide variety of areas. So you do have elective choices, and certainly taking electives that are consistent with the interest that you have are important. But we want to talk a little bit about the programs that we offer here at UMass Lowell. As an online student, you may not be considering coming to UMass Lowell for graduate study, but a number of our students from online programs in the past have done so and have been very, very successful. So want to have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about those programs, but I'm not going to be talking to you about it. Dr. Markovitz and Dr. Fry are going to do that. So I'll just turn it over to them now to talk about our graduate certificate program and our graduate degree programs.
I think that's what you're going to be.
All right. So I will start by talking about our BIA certificate program. So there are different levels of graduate work that you can do, and so I think this first step would be the certificate program, which is where you take graduate level courses. It doesn't lead to a degree in of itself, but a lot of the students in our certificate program are individuals who maybe did okay as an undergrad, or it's been a really long time since they've done their undergrad work, and they use it to get themselves started again. So especially maybe you are looking to go to grad school in an area and maybe you did okay, your GPA isn't that great, but if you're looking at admissions requirements, you're not really meeting that. Doing a certificate program, whether it's our BIA one or if you're finding other ones, can be a good way to show an admissions committee that you can handle graduate level coursework. The certificate program that we have through our Department of Psychology here at UMass Lowell is the BIA, or the Behavioral Intervention in Autism Graduate Certificate Program, which is a huge mouthful. It's actually now the BIA for BCBA preparation, which is an even bigger mouthful at this point. But the point of this program, or the purpose of this program, is to prepare individuals to work in the field of, if you want to work at a school, if you want to work in a home with individuals with autism or other developmental disabilities. So if that's interesting to you, this would be a good certificate program to start doing some research on. So a certificate program is much shorter than a graduate program. Ours is only 6 courses. So it takes about 1 calendar year or 3 semesters to complete. And what we do is look at how we can work with individuals with autism and other developmental disabilities using applied behavior analysis. And so this can prepare you to work in a school. It can prepare you to work if you want to do home therapy, if you want to work in a residential home, and it can, the people that take these courses work with preschoolers, they work with kids who are 2 and 3, and the adult world. So it really gives you a wide range of things that you can do. So some of the other things to consider with this program is that like I said, we have a very long name, and the other half of the name besides BIA is for BCBA preparation, or become a board certified behavior analyst. So a behavior analyst is someone who practices applied behavior analysis, and what this program does is, with a bachelor's degree, if you have a bachelor's degree and take these courses, you actually get a really great credential or qualification called a board certified assistant behavior analyst, or BCABA. And this prepares you to go into a school, to go into a residential facility, to go into somebody's home and work with their child, work with their student to assess the student's problem behavior, or assess why they might not be learning as a skill as quickly as they should be learning it, and develop a treatment plan for them, and work with the teachers, work with the family. So if that sounds interesting to you, this would be a really great program to look into. You get to work directly not only with the child or with the student themselves, but you work as a member of a team. So you work with other people who are working with that individual. You consult to the family, you consult to a teacher, you consult to a residential home. And so it can be very, very fulfilling. The next, should I skip over to the MS and Autism Studies? Or?
And
Yeah, and then I'll talk about community.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the BIA certificate program is completely online.
It is. That program is completely online.
And it doesn't have to be done in all 6 courses. So if you
Right.
do not wish to become board certified, but you just would like the skills and the knowledge to do the ABA in your current position or in another position, you can actually obtain the certificate in 4 or 5 courses as well.
Not yet.
You can.
It's,
You can still, but it's not BCBA.
no, you can't. It has to be 6 now.
We just changed.
Yeah, it just changed.
Okay. Sorry about that.
You don't have to go for the BCBA. No, you don't. The BCBA is a separate credential, so some people do get confused because certificate and certification sound very similar. So you do gain the knowledge, but you don't get that separate credential. So if you're already in a position where you're doing this as in a school, in a home, wherever, and you're just looking for that extra information, this is a really great program to get you that extra information. We will hopefully soon have a separate 4-course program, but we're working on that right now. So right now it is 6 courses. And then, yes, go into the master's.
The master's program.
Yes. So we have a Master's of Science in Autism Studies. This is both online and on campus, so it incorporates those 6 BIA courses as part of the online component, but the rest of the courses are on campus. And the MS in Autism Studies is for individuals who want to, learn more about not just behavior analysis, because those courses are a part of the program, but autism in general. So it looks at autism from a developmental approach, a community approach, and so it gives you a much broader spectrum to work with these individuals and their families and the other professionals that work with them. So with the Master's in Autism Studies, a lot of our students go on to take the board certification exam. Some decide they really like just doing research in autism itself. Others in Massachusetts, we have a license in behavior analysis, so some students go on that as well. And so it gives you more background in autism, in the workings with how someone with autism, how the services are provided through the community, through the school, and gives you that wider range.
Okay,
All
thanks.
right.
And Dr. Fry.
So it's a little bit ironic that I would be talking about the community social psychology program, but not entirely. So our Master's in Community Social Psychology at UML is actually one of the oldest programs in the United States. It's a very long-standing, very entrenched, very, very productive program. The irony of me talking about it is because I'm a clinical psychologist, and community psychology was something that actually came into existence in part in response to clinical psychology. In response to clinical psychology in the 50s and the 60s, very, very focused on just the individual. Everything is about a person. And of course, that's not true. And so in response to that, the community social psychology movement kind of came into being, where people started to say, no, it's not about the person, it's about what's going on in the community. It's the community that leads people to behave in ways that are pathological, and so on and so forth. And if that's the case, how can we help the community be a better community in order to make people healthier? So that is still the goal of the community social psychology program. And it incorporates theories and knowledge from community psychology, which has this very, very environmental focus. And it also incorporates theories and knowledge from the very old area of psychology, social psychology, which is a really theoretically rich area. So you get this wonderful theoretical training, and then you also get tremendous opportunities to actually work with communities. So you get the training to then actually go out into the community, help with identify, so, what is the problem that's going on here? Why is it that our community has had an uptick in violence over the last 10 years? And if that's the case, then what would be the right approach? How could we control the violence level in our community better? Maybe we need to involve church members more. Maybe we need to involve schools more in after-school programs. Maybe we need to involve individual families more and make them part of the community. So you get that kind of training in many different environments that you could choose from. So it could be within an institution that is the community you're looking at. It could be a neighborhood. It could be a university. So the word community really has multiple meanings. Our students graduate from that program and they go on to get jobs in community psychology. They go on, many of them, to get jobs working for non-government organizations, jobs working for nonprofit organizations. So it also is a program that really explicitly, I think, has a strong social justice orientation. Though I would say that that probably is true of all of the programs in our department. So that's the community social psych program.
Okay, very good.
You want me to say a word or two about the
just
doctoral program?
If you don't mind.
Nope. And there really is only a couple of words to say about the doctoral program at this stage, because the doctoral program actually requires applicants to have a master's degree. So it's a terrific program. It's just opening. It's brand new and all shiny and bright. And in many ways, it takes aspects of community social psych and other many areas of psychology and makes it even more sort of theoretically robust, and you get this much richer methodological focus. Go forward then and do that type of applied work. But again, that's probably a little bit in the future for most of you, since it's a requirement that applicants actually have an existing master's degree.
Thank you, guys.
Sure.
Or do you plan to introduce the BA to the MS or the BA to the MA?
Sure. I think that's a good idea too. Would you like to speak
Sure.
to that?
So there is an option for undergrad students who are interested in pursuing the MA in community social psych. If you're a local student, that is an on-campus program. But as an undergrad student in continuing ed, once you've reached the senior level, you can ask for permission to begin the courses in that program, and you're allowed up to 2 classes before that can be counted as your undergrad before you actually are matriculating in the master's program. So during your acceptance process, you can begin the coursework, and the same goes for the MS autism studies. And many seniors take the introduction to behavioral intervention autism as one of their 400 level course offerings, because it is offered online and it gives them a good solid introduction to applied behavior analysis to find out if they're interested. So even if you are not interested in pursuing the MS autism because it's blended, you may be interested in the certificate program, and you can take at least that first course with permission from the department chair.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Okay, enough about us. Back to some more general sorts of tips, as it were. Applications are never fun, but they're necessary. So just as you think about graduate school and you make some decisions about what kind of program you want to pursue, and you get to the point of being ready to actually do an application, just some things to keep in mind. First of all, follow directions. I can't emphasize that strongly enough. It's, obviously as you read through the application, there's going to be information about how to prepare it, what kind of information needs to go on a personal statement and so forth, and those things are very important. Also, information about deadlines. A lot of the graduate programs have application deadlines in December, January, or February. Some are rolling, but you need to be very cognizant of the fact that the deadlines are important, and if you're interested in a program that has a deadline in January, you certainly need to make sure that you get your application materials in by by that time. And then contact schools to make sure that your application is complete. A lot of applications now certainly are done online, and as I'm going to talk just a little bit in a moment about some issues relating to references and so forth. Those are often submitted online as well. So don't be shy. Make sure that that you know that your application is complete. You don't want to be a pest, but it's important to no stalking. But make sure that you know what the status of your application is. A lot of times you'll know online whether everything has been submitted and has been, obviously you can check it that way, but it's important that you find out whether or not your application is complete, because if you miss the deadline, then your application is not going to be of much use at that point. Letters of recommendation. This is probably one of the most important things that you will be doing in the application process, besides completing the application itself. And this is important. I think Alexandra made a point earlier in her comments about getting to know faculty members, because in order to write a letter of recommendation for you, we need to know a little about you. Obviously, having a couple of classes is helpful, but coming to chat sessions helps us get to know you better. Basically, interacting on discussion boards, emails. So there are ways to do this, even if you are distant. But it's very, very important that you make yourself known to faculty that you're perhaps interested in having write a letter of recommendation for you. Academic references are the ones that carry the most weight. So you don't want to go to your friends and family members and ask them for academic references. You need to ask for references from faculty who have taught you. So it's really very important to build those relationships. I write a lot of letters of recommendation for students, both online and in the undergraduate day program. And one of the things that I always ask of students is, I would like to see a copy of your resume or your CV or curriculum vitae. You probably call it a resume. While I may know things about you, I don't know everything about you, and it helps me to understand your situation. Also, personal statement. One of the things that may come and bite you if you aren't careful is a poorly written personal statement. So ask the reference or one of your references to read and review your personal statement, because it does carry a lot of weight. The faculty can help you craft those references or those statements so that they are meaningful and that they're taken seriously and appropriately by an admissions committee.
Career Assistance will help with personal statements as well.
Okay, awesome. So Emily just said that Career Services would be willing and does that kind of work all the time. So again, another benefit. The letters of recommendation may be, I think a lot of them now are basically uploaded to websites. They're done electronically. So whether it's a paper form or an electronic submission for the letter of recommendation or for you, there's a box on there that basically asks, do you waive your right to view the letter? And I think most people's knee-jerk reaction is, well, of course I want to see it. I wouldn't ask somebody to write a letter for me if I didn't want to look at it. But that's probably not the best thing to do. You absolutely have a right to look at any letter that is written for you, but if you think about it, if you're sitting on an admissions committee, just put yourself in that position. If you got a letter of recommendation from an individual who had not waived their right and one who had waived their right, you probably would take a bit more seriously the one from the student reference where that right had been waived, because obviously it says a couple of things. It says I'm confident enough about myself that I don't feel like I need to read that letter. And secondly, it basically, the admissions committee is going to know that the person that's writing the letter doesn't feel like there's a person staring over their shoulder, so they probably feel that they're going to get a more honest appraisal of your ability. Be confident. I mean, you're going to be at the point that you've done good work, you're ready to move on, so be confident. And I think it shows in this way. So, my recommendation would be waive your right, but obviously it's your decision to make.
Can I add a couple things?
Please do.
When you do ask people to write your letters of recommendation, make sure you give them plenty of time to write them. Don't go to them a week before and say, hey, can I get this letter? Give them several weeks. And something that's also helpful along with a personal statement or your resume or CV is to give a description of the program that you're applying for. Especially because if you're applying to, you might be applying to very similar programs, but there's slight differences between them. And the person who's writing your letter, especially if they know you really well, can tailor the letter to that program. So certain programs might be looking for certain qualities, and then they can speak to those qualities.
Thank you. That's absolutely spot on. So the letters of recommendation are very important parts of your graduate school process. How do you fund graduate school? Well, there are a variety of ways to do that. Certainly if we're talking about PhD programs, which is one terminal degree that people earn, Doctor of Philosophy, most often students will find that they are able to fund their program through assistantships or fellowships that are offered. So funding is often provided at that level. For master's programs, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is typically not the case. That there may be some funding as a graduate assistant, but funding is not as likely to be offered sort of as a default situation as it is for a doctoral program. It's not always a default situation there as well. Check out scholarships, and there obviously there may be opportunities to work. So there may be some wages that may be paid in return for work in a department, maybe working on somebody's grant or in somebody's lab. So there are a variety of different options, but the bottom line is that loans are probably the most common mechanism for students to fund graduate study. So that is a consideration. Certainly the issue of student loans and student debt is a big one right now, but graduate school, if well considered, well thought out, and you find a program that meets your needs, can be worth it. Absolutely worth every cent that you spend, but it needs to fit. It needs to work for you. Okay, let's see. And this is the last slide that I have. Good luck with your career and graduate study search. If I saw that we had somebody join us a few minutes ago, if you have questions, you can certainly type those in the text box. We will be putting the slides up on the Department of Psychology's website, and I'll get information out about that. Also on the Department of Psychology's Facebook page, we'll put a link to the slides and also a recording of this event. We have a full record, including video and audio, of the entire webinar that has just been presented, so you'll be able to catch it that way and review it. We'll also probably put a link to the webinar on the Department of Psychology's website. So even if you miss part of this, and for those students who were unable to be here tonight, there will be an opportunity to review the information. And we're always available by email. And if you're an online student, you probably have some of us in class this semester. So, shoot us an email or, send us something on the discussion board. Anyone else have something they'd like to add? And I'd like to thank Wai Ping for setting this up. This was no small feat. So thanks everybody, and look forward to continuing to work with you, and good luck in your career in graduate school search.